This series is made possible by the generous donation of Stifel Financial and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Where Do We Go From Here, a series that explores issues that matter, always locally and sometimes regionally, nationally, and to the world at large. This program is going to be part of a series on climate change. Lou Sitzer, our producer, and all of us here at NCTV have a goal of providing you the best information that we can from informed local leaders and experts on the subjects that we cover. Why? So that all of us can try to decide where might we want to go from here and how can we get there. I'm your host, Al Dover, retired Superior Court Judge of Nevada County and a mediator. My guest today is Don Rivenes. At the end of the show, I'm going to tell you how you can watch past episodes and also how you can, if you would like, contribute to NCTV. Thanks for watching, and let's continue. Don Rivenes worked 44 years as a computer systems analyst, with the last 20 years as an independent consultant to large banks. He is Conservation Chair and Treasurer of Sierra Foothills Audubon Society, Executive Director of Forest Issues Group, and a member of the Nevada County Climate Change Coordinating Committee. As chair of the Nevada City 100% Renewables Committee, he is coordinating volunteer efforts to have Nevada City reach a goal of 100% renewable electricity by 2030 and 100% renewable energy by 2050. That's 100% renewable electricity by 2030 and 100% renewable energy by 2050. Well done. What inspired you to become involved with this climate change issue?
Well, basically, we have noticed here in the Sierra the global warming and climate change are impacting locally as well as the planet. There's more severe weather. We've had major forest fires in the Sierra Nevada, droughts in the last few years. As the early snow melt is impeding their water supply and the forest health. The weather pattern changes are impacting our natural resources. And the local recreational economy, the ski resorts, et cetera, are being impacted by the snow levels. Insect vectors changes have caused bark beetles to be impacting a lot of the trees in the Sierra Nevada. 100 million trees in the southern Sierra have been killed, and that's because of the warmer winters are causing them to be able to reproduce more and impact the local economy. The second thing is that I was invited as a member of Sierra Forest Audubon Society to attend a group for Nevada County Climate Change Coalition that was forming. And they wanted to get together different groups to all work on the same issue. So we met about 4 years ago to start that. And finally, the UN itself, since 1992, has been holding conventions to analyze climate change and get all the countries in the world together on the issue. And so obviously this started a long time ago in the 70s. We knew there was a climate change problem. Exxon, for example, actually knew about it and buried their research at the time. James Hansen in 1988 actually did a major report on what the climate change was doing to the world. And then in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, all the countries of the world got together and got a pledge going. And finally in 2016 in Paris, the 192 countries all signed on to working on climate change. And it was finally ratified a year later when over 55% of the countries involved actually signed on to it.
I might have heard something about that kind of recently.
Well,
maybe about one of those countries that
Well, yeah, the United States actually formally withdrew from the convention, but it's actually going to take 3 or 4 years before that actually happens. So it hasn't quite happened yet.
Hasn't really had an impact then?
Not yet.
So tell me, I see 44 years as a computer systems analyst. What experience do you have regarding the issue of climate change?
Well, as part of the Audubon Society, a few years ago now, Audubon Society came out a report, State of the Birds nationwide, and they analyzed all the bird species to determine what impact climate change had on them. And it meant their migrations were changing, and that was changing where the food sources were when they got to the place they migrated to, and so it was impacting the different species. So I got involved and led a workshop on that a few years ago. Also, I work with the Sierra Forest Legacy and the Forest Issues Group on the forest issues for the last 25 years. And so we've been looking at now what not only was how the timber practices we were working on in the past, but now we're working on, well, what's the climate change going to do to the forests? So that's an issue that I've been involved in too. And then further, I attended an online course, University of Queensland, which got scientists from all over the world together to get up the latest science on climate change and then answer climate deniers who were saying that it wasn't really occurring. So those are some of my background I got involved in.
Interesting with the online course that so much knowledge can be gathered in so many different ways.
That's right.
Especially you kids today, all
right.
that online
Us
tech.
kids,
I understand that. Why did you propose that Nevada City have a plan for 100% renewables?
Well,
and what does that mean?
Okay, before I get into that, I just want to mention a little thing just to people about the science behind climate change to make sure that people are aware of it. It's really pretty basic, the science. There's a carbon cycle. There's cycle in the active cycle, which is in the oceans, the soil, and the atmosphere. The carbon is always being exchanged on that basis. But then there's carbon in the earth, deep in the mantle, and also down in the lower levels of lithosphere. And that carbon is just natural. It's just going on regularly. When we had the Industrial Revolution, all of a sudden, using fossil fuels, digging them up and putting them in and burning them has caused all that carbon that was sequestered now to become part of the active cycle. So we've now increased it. And the reason that's a problem is that we have something called the greenhouse gases. The greenhouse gases are important because they are the reason we have a climate that we do. The atmosphere actually keeps the earth warmer because of the greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases essentially are water vapor, a methane, and carbon dioxide. These are all complex molecules. What happens is when the sun's rays come down, the infrared is part of it, it hits the earth, some of it's absorbed, and the rest of it gets emitted out into the atmosphere. Well, because of these additional carbon dioxide molecules now, it's hitting them and it's rebounding back, and the earth is getting warmer because of that. So global warming is really because we have more carbon dioxide going into this atmosphere. So it's this very simple science. There's nobody can really, I don't think, can argue that that's what the impact of it is. Now, as far as Nevada City, about a year ago, we saw a film called Future of Energy, which is shown by the Circle Film Festival. And in this film, it showed countries all over the world what each of them are doing about climate change. And in particular, in the U.S., there are certain cities that have actually already gone 100% renewable. There was a city in Kansas that had a big tornado come in, wiped out the city, and they decided to rebuild it on pure renewable energy. So that's one thing that is involved. The other is Sierra Nevada Alliance, which is a group of over a coalition of about 100 different organizations in the Sierra Nevada, has one of their programs to get all the cities in the Sierra Nevada to make a pledge or a resolution to go 100% renewable. So we got involved with them as we were members of that. The Sierra Club has a program ready for 100, and that's a nationwide program, and they have over 160 mayors that have signed up to pledge to go 100% renewable all over the country. So those two things, locally, Salt Lake City passed a resolution, and then South Lake Tahoe took that resolution, modified it, and passed it a year ago, May. So we took that resolution and said, okay, why don't we take that and put a resolution together for Nevada City? It's going to be a little different because we're not high up in South Lake Tahoe.
Right.
But so we modified that. We gathered, we did a bunch of tabling and got a lot of petitions and signatures together. We presented them to the Nevada City Council. And then in August of last year, of 2017, they passed a resolution. The resolution, as you mentioned in your beginning, 100% renewable electricity by 2030, and that goes with their current plan that goes to 28% reduction by 2020. So this is extending their current energy action plan that's in place in Nevada City. The second part was 100% renewable energy by 2050, and that differs only the fact that we're talking about heating the homes, et cetera, which is natural gas. That has to be converted over to renewable energy, as opposed to just the electricity coming from PG&E. And the final thing then is to have a transition. During this period of time, we want to monitor the progress. Are they really reaching their goals? So we have to have a team together to analyze that, to see that happens.
So I just wanted to ask you too, if I can, you're talking here specifically, I've been hearing about Nevada City. Is there a reason that we wouldn't replicate for Grass Valley, Penn Valley, and of course Truckee is up in the mountains, more like South Lake Tahoe?
Yeah, I was going to get into that,
Were
but
you?
I'll just mention it right now that Truckee just did pass a 100% renewable resolution last month, and the Nevada City passed it. So, and Grass Valley just the other night, we got them to pass a resolution that they would develop an energy action plan like Nevada City has. And I can talk
Well, that kind of is
little
my
about
follow-up,
that.
which is, how do you accomplish this, really,
Right.
is the next question.
So what happens is the Sierra Business Council and PG&E, because of the California Public Utilities Commission, requires the utilities to move forward on renewable energy. So there's a joint program with Sierra Business Council located in Truckee and PG&E, and they came into Nevada City and wrote the Energy Action Plan for Nevada City in 2015, and that's the one that says that they're going to reach 100%. They're going to reach 28% reduction of energy use by 2020, electricity use. So, and then we looked and saw that they had this Energy Action Plan, but we weren't sure that anybody's actually following up on it. The city is a very small city, well, single planning director, there's not much facility there. So we put together a 100% renewables committee, which was further on to a committee that was formed when the original plan was written. So we got some new members and we've got that going now. And for that committee, we have actually 4 subcommittees. One committee is the one that's going to look at the basic part of the Energy Action Plan is an inventory of greenhouse gas emissions. So they had to figure out what's the baseline. And then from that, they had to build a bunch of strategies that are going to make, how do we reduce the amount of electricity use? And so they put together this plan that showed all the uses, how much they're using. So the first thing we want to do is look at that inventory of greenhouse gas and see how are they doing? Are they meeting the goals that they set forth in the plan? So we have a subcommittee that's reanalyzing their original figures and trying to match that to what's going on now. The second area committee is the strategies committee. The Energy Action Plan has a series of strategies that will allow them to meet these goals. Mainly they're in the area of housing, how do we retrofit the houses so that they use less electricity, LED lights, insulation of the houses, new windows, these kinds of things that can reduce their use of electricity. The major, half of the reduction of energy use is going to be for solar panels, so that, again, they analyzed how many homes could ultimately put on solar panels to reduce that amount of electricity coming from non-renewable sources. Because PG&E is their source. Currently, PG&E is on target because the state has required it to be 33% of its electricity coming from renewables by 2020. And by 2030, they're going to be 50%. And then by 2050, they have to be 80% of the 1990 1990 levels of electricity. So that's all part of the plan. And the next area is communications. We have a team that's actually looking at how do we tell people what they can do to reduce their electricity usage. So we're going to hold little forums, workshops, and try and get people together. We have a website. There's a website Nevada City has that shows all the different programs that are available to them, the rebates and subsidies to reduce their uses.
Let's just say what the name of the website is for those watching.
Well, it's Nevada County. Just look up Nevada City Energy Action Plan, and you'll find that website.
Okay.
We've actually, I'm with the Nevada County Climate Change Coalition. I maintain the website for it. And so I've taken the material from the Nevada cities and put it into our website and reorganized it. And hopefully we'll move that material back to Nevada cities and update their website. And the last area is research. Obviously, things are happening all the time. Solar panels are changing. Battery storage is being improved greatly. So that's another committee that's going to look at all the latest research and try and apply that to Nevada City. So those are some of the things. Obviously, if PG&E is producing the energy for most of the city and it's only 33% renewable, the question is what do we do to get the other 67% renewable if it's all coming from PG&E?
Right.
Well, a couple of options there. Nevada City has some space that they own, which is potential for a solar farm. So if they could put a solar panel farm up there in the old airport site, that could provide 3 megawatts of solar power, which actually would cover their completely municipal requirements for electricity and a lot of the individual housing. So that's one option. And the second option is to do a community choice aggregation. This is something that the CPUC, again, has mandated that they can allow local communities to provide the source of the electricity, not the transmission of it or the distribution of it, but at least the stuff going into the transmission line. So there's these communities that have gotten together, like Marin has a Marin Energy group, and Placer County has just come up with a new community choice aggregation, which they call Pioneer Community Energy. That's all the cities of Placer County are now part of this, and every citizen in those cities is automatically opted in to this program that they have to get their power now through this local community choice aggregation group. You can opt out of it, but if you opt out of it, then you will then be getting your power directly from PG&E. So the way it works is that you'll get an electric bill. You'll still get the cost from PG&E for transmission and distribution, but then you'll have a line on there that says it came from this community choice aggregation group, that the source of energy was so much for how much, so much money. So if you agree to stay with PG&E, then the option is for you to say, I want to use their, PG&E has a solar choice program where if you sign up for that and pay an extra couple of bucks, then you will be telling PG&E they have to produce renewable energy for you out of that money you're putting into it. So this is a way you can get, the whole thing can balance to get the 100%. So the options for a CCA that we have are, one, power, you stay where we are. PG&E produces, and somehow we get PG&E to produce 100% renewable energy.
Right, not likely.
Right. The second is join Pioneer Community Energy of Placer County. We could do a joint power authority to join actually in with them, and Nevada City could be part of that community choice aggregation.
Okay.
Third option is we could have our own. Nevada County could just set up its own community choice aggregation with Nevada City, Truckee, Grass Valley, and the county itself, all getting the power from somewhere to provide to the people and feeding it into the PG&E lines. The fourth option at the moment has just come up with the Nevada Irrigation District is looking at possibility of forming a community choice aggregation. And then they would be the source for all the cities in Nevada County. And the reason that makes sense to a certain extent is because they have a lot of hydropower.
Right.
Hydropower, if it's under 30 megawatt power station, that is considered renewable energy. So a lot of the stations along the Bear Yuba Canal, et cetera, are all can be considered renewable. So those are the options.
Terrific.
So that's all.
Yeah, it's a lot, but you know a lot. Nothing wrong with having a lot of information. I noticed there was a It's a fairly new power array on Highway 49, just out of Nevada City, right before you get to the Willow Restaurant. It's a large array.
Yeah, what that is that a couple of years ago, the Nevada County itself got a grant that allowed them to purchase solar power. They worked with a company, an energy company, and they, first of all, they put in solar panels all over the county parking lots.
Right.
So that provides solar energy. The second plant there that you mentioned near the Willow is going to provide more renewable energy, and that'll feed again into the PG&E lines, but it will be reducing Nevada County's costs. They expect, I think the figure was something like to save $100,000 a year on energy costs by having those arrays. And they also have one down at Lake of the Pines they're putting for their wastewater treatment plant. So that's all Nevada County's trying to reduce the county's costs. It has nothing to do with the other people in the county as such yet. But that's the next question. If Nevada County can go forward with a resolution for 100%, then they'd have to figure out how are they going to provide that for the rest of the people in Nevada County.
Right.
And an example of that is Placer County just had a new sustainable plan they just came up with. It's for all the unincorporated part of Placer County, and how are they going to provide the energy as opposed to their Pioneer Community Energy Company, which is going to do it just for the cities themselves. So there's two elements, the county and then there's the cities within the counties.
Got it.
So that is very forwarded. They have an energy plan, also the county.
Right.
Grass Valley, as I said, we just talked to Sierra Business Council. Sierra Business Council has this grant program that they get from the state that allows them to go into their various cities and counties and offer to do energy action plans for them, free. And in fact, in case of Grass Valley, all they have to do is provide about 20 to 40 hours of staff time, and the Sierra Business Council does everything else to produce the energy action plan. And then the actual energy plan then therefore will say, what are the goals, what are the strategies, how can we save money, reduce energy costs for people.
Fascinating.
So that's all going on all at the same time.
So a lot of things are happening on a lot of fronts at the same time. Do you have a story or an encounter that provides a perspective on the issue for you?
Well, a couple of years ago, we decided to go solar. So we contacted the Cal Solar, a local energy solar plant company, and we installed 8 panels on our roof. And I just got my PG&E bill today again, and it shows a $10 cost for my electricity bill for the month. And that $10 is the cost that PG&E passes on for us feeding our energy into the PG&E lines, into their network. They say, well, the lines cost something to maintain, et cetera, so they charge back $10 at least to cover the transmission and distribution costs. So that in any case, my bill was only $10 to cover and it's all renewable because it's coming from the solar. And the second thing I did was I just leased an electric car, all electric car called a Chevy Bolt. And it goes about 220 miles on a charge, and I have a charger in my garage, so therefore I just charge it up and I can drive all around. I actually can go to the Bay Area, charge it down there and come back, and it's all electric. So mine is all solar because I have the solar panel. I put in 6 more panels on my roof to cover the electric car. Now there's a tiny glitch in the fact that when I go charge it down there, I have no guarantee that they're using renewable energy for the source of electricity for when I recharge. That's going to be the goal, is that all the gas stations, all the charging stations around the state should have a renewable energy source for their electricity for when you charge up.
Well, I have a bit of a solar panel story too, because we put in an array about, I don't remember now, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And what struck me is the man that sold it to us, because it's a pretty large upfront cost. Said this will pay for itself, given the rates today, in 6 years, 7 months, and 4 days. And then he called me about 3 years later and went, the rates just went up. So now it's going to be 6 years, 1 month, and it did. You know what I mean? He was dead spot on. I was dumbstruck.
And of course, now the price of solar panels has gone down a lot in the last 6 years too.
Yeah, of course.
Nevada City, for example, put in solar panels on the city hall back in 2005, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And so they've had solar there, and they've had some solar at their waste treatment plants, and Grass Valley has put it on the Memorial Pool for the heating of this pool. So there's all these little solar projects going on at the present time. But you're right, it is an upfront cost. But there are certain arrangements that can be made where you can actually borrow the money for the upfront cost, and then you're just paying them back through the period of time, so that you don't have to come up for the upfront costs. There's a lot of different other things that are going on. I don't know how much time we have at the moment, but
well, we'll keep going for a couple of minutes.
Okay, there's a thing called Title 24, Chapter 6, which is building code that the state has. And this building code is actually mandating by 2020 all new housing and all new residential housing has to be 100% zero net energy.
Wow.
And by 2030, all non-residential has to be zero net energy by 2030. So all the municipalities are going to have to figure out how they can meet those mandates. Right now, there's a mandate for Title 24 to reduce energy, home retrofitting, et cetera, but they're not actually, they don't have those same final goals. So, so the local communities are actually also driven by the state. The state is actually Governor Brown is doing very forward thinking on trying to reduce the energy costs for the state. And then all the agencies have to comply with that, which means that they kind of force the local municipalities to try and do their part too.
So maybe that really ties into my last question, which is really from your point of view, where do we go from here?
Well, first of all, there's the individuals. Individuals can reduce their own carbon footprint through the use of Energy Star appliances, replacing their appliances with the more efficient appliances, LED lighting in their home. That's a big one.
Right.
Home retrofitting by insulation, water heating converted to electric water heaters, solar panels, which we've already talked about.
Right.
Shared commuting, when they shared car commuting, use electric cars for the commuting, and various other solutions. Those are all, a lot of the things, and a lot of people are doing these things already. I mean, recycling things we've known about some of this stuff, it just is good practice.
Sure.
But now climate change has actually forced us to think further on it. So as well as your primary carbon footprint, there's a secondary footprint that you can use for your buying habits. For example, buy local fruits and vegetables. I think there's a segment on agriculture that's talking about how you can reduce your, you can buy locally, even try growing your own. You can buy foods that are in season locally, foods that don't have to be transmitted from long distances. The cost of transportation is all non-renewable energy. Oil tankers, et cetera, bringing materials in.
Sure.
You can buy organic produce. The thing is, don't buy overpackaged products, plastics, et cetera, and recycle as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we are, now that we've got Grass Valley working on the Energy Action Plan, we hope to form a renewables committee that will help work with them to try and get that plan written and then have these other longer term goals in the plan. And so you can participate in that. And also we have this Nevada County Climate Change Coalition. You can find out more about our work in our meetings. You can go to www.nclimatechangecoalition.org. So we hold monthly meetings, we do educational programs, we do summer camps for non-served kids, underserved kids.
Okay.
So every month we have a different meeting and a presentation on some aspect of climate change. We've had them on water use and fracking and other things like this. So.
And I saw that you brought a pamphlet or a book here with you. Want to hold that up in front of yourself for a second and move your fingers so they can see it? There you go. And this says, Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, edited by Paul, is that Hawken?
Yeah, Paul Hawken. Yeah, the idea of drawdown is that we can't just adapt and sort of stop doing some of the things we're doing, but you actually have to draw down our use of the fossil fuels. And so this has 100 different solutions. About 80 of them are solutions that are already there. The technology is already here. It's just a matter of applying it.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing, the number one on it is refrigeration. The hydrocarbons that come out of the refrigerator are the number one source of climate change in terms of what impact we can have if we had better refrigerator and disposal of them. So,
All right, I'm going to add one more note then to my list of things I can do and where I need to go from here, which is home, and check out my refrigerator.
right.
Okay.
And Drawdown certainly is really worth reading. It's just very comprehensive, and it's very interesting reading.
Thank you, Don. Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's our show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. If you've learned something new or just appreciate our efforts to bring you some good information, then please consider going to our website at NCTV and donating. Also, you can view past episodes by going to YouTube, Where Do We Go From Here, NCTV. This program is streamed on Comcast Channel 17 on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Thanks for watching.